Why is the calmest person in the room so often the one with the most money? It is rarely the loudest or the flashiest. It is the one who orders without scanning the prices and never once brings up what they earn. That calm has a source, and it has almost nothing to do with the size of a paycheck. Real wealth tends to show up as a kind of quiet you can feel across a table, and it leaves fingerprints. 10 of them. Learn to read them, and a shiny surface will never fool you again. Here is the trap almost everybody falls into. We treat a big salary and real money as if they are the same thing, and they are not even close. A salary is what shows up in your account. Wealth is what is still standing after the showing up is done. You can earn a fortune and keep almost none of it, and an astonishing number of people do exactly that. Look at the data from this year. A recent Goldman Sachs survey found that 41% of households earning between $300,000 and $500,000 a year describe themselves as living paycheck to paycheck. $500,000 flowing in, and nothing left standing at the end of the month. Bank of America found something similar further down the ladder, with around 1 in 5 households earning over $150,000 a year in the same paycheck-to-paycheck trap. Meanwhile, a school teacher 2 towns over steadily builds a 7-figure net worth on a fraction of that income. And here is the part that should give you some hope. Most American millionaires are not trust fund heirs coasting on family money. In the largest study of them ever conducted, 79% received no inheritance whatsoever, and the typical person did not reach that first million until around age 49. They built it slowly on ordinary incomes, using the exact quiet habits we are about to cover. The paycheck lies. The behavior tells the truth. So let me walk you through the 10 signs that reveal who actually has money, no matter what their job title or their car or their zip code seems to say. Number 1. Their money shows up to work even when they don't. This is the deepest difference between looking rich and being rich, and it is almost invisible from the outside. A high earner trades hours for dollars, and it can be a lot of dollars. But the second they stop working, the dollars stop too. Someone with real money has quietly built the opposite arrangement, where the money earns money on its own around the clock, whether they are at the office or asleep or on a beach ignoring their phone. Think about what $100,000 does when it sits invested and untouched. At an average 8% return, it does not merely grow. It roughly quadruples over 20 years, turning into more than $460,000 without a single additional deposit. That is money doing the heavy lifting instead of a human being. Take Elias, a warehouse manager who never once cracked 6 figures in his life. He spent 2 decades funneling every raise and every tax refund into index funds instead of upgrades, and by his early 50s, the income those investments threw off had passed what his actual job paid him. His coworkers thought he was underpaid. He was, in a sense, financially free while still clocking in. This is what people are pointing at when they talk about passive income, though the word passive badly undersells the years of active, unglamorous saving it takes to build the engine in the first place. Dividends, interest, rental checks, the steady gains from index funds, all of it arrives whether or not you set an alarm in the morning. That is the calm you feel radiating off certain people at the table. It is the deep, structural calm of a person whose money does not need them to show up tomorrow morning. Contrast that with the high earner one seat over, who is one lost client or one layoff away from panic because every dollar in their life is tied to their own 2 hands. And that difference in security shows up in the smallest, most ordinary moments. Number 2, a surprise bill is an inconvenience, not a catastrophe. Watch how a person reacts when something breaks, because that reaction is a window straight into their real finances. The transmission goes. Maybe the dog swallows something it shouldn't, and the vet quotes $3,000 on a Sunday afternoon. Then the water heater floods the basement the week before the holidays. For most households, that moment is pure adrenaline, and the numbers explain exactly why. Depending on how you measure it, roughly 1 in 3 Americans could not cover an unexpected $400 expense without borrowing the money or selling something to get it. $400. So when a $3,000 bill lands on that same household, it is not an errand. It is a small disaster that ripples through the budget for months, often landing on a credit card at brutal interest. Someone with real money barely changes expression. They keep a genuine emergency fund, usually 3 to 6 months of expenses, sitting in a high-yield savings account, earning around 4% while it waits. And here is a detail most people miss. The national average savings account still pays only about 1/3 of 1%, so on $10,000, a big bank hands you around $38 a year, while a high-yield account pays roughly $400. Wealthy people never leave that money on the table. Meet Portia, a pediatric nurse who keeps 6 months of expenses parked and boring. When her car needed a $2,000 repair last winter, she told me it did not even register as stress. It was a Tuesday. That flat, unbothered response to a number that would derail most budgets is one of the clearest tells there is, and the next sign is often sitting right out in the driveway. Number 3, the car in the driveway is boring on purpose. Here is where people get fooled the hardest, because we have all been trained to read an expensive car as proof of a wealthy owner. Very often, it is the reverse. The average new car payment in America hit a record this year, climbing to about $770 a month. Nearly 1 in 5 new car loans now carries a payment over $1,000. And roughly 3/4 of those $1,000 payments are not even for luxury vehicles, just ordinary trucks and SUVs bought on very long loans. Now run the math that a wealthy person runs almost automatically. Take that $770 payment and imagine investing it every month instead. Over 30 years at 8%. It grows into more than $1.1 million. So the car payment is not really a car payment. It is a $1 million decision handed over to a hunk of metal that loses value the moment it leaves the lot. And that is before you even count the interest. Finance the average new car, and you can hand the lender well over $50,000 across a typical 6-year loan. All of it for something worth a fraction of that by the time you finally own it outright. People with real money feel that in their bones, which is why the research keeps landing on the same finding. An Experian study showed that 61% of households earning over $250,000 a year do not drive luxury brands at all. They are in a paid-off Toyota or Honda that is a few years old. Ramsey's study of more than 10,000 American millionaires found that 84% credited skipping car payments as a key reason they built their wealth in the first place. The unremarkable car is not a lack of taste. It is a deliberate choice, and it funds everything else on this list. Which brings us to how these same people treat the small piece of plastic in their wallet. Number 4, the credit card gets paid in full every single time. This one is quiet, but it might be the single most reliable signal on the entire list. In that same study of more than 10,000 American millionaires, nearly 3/4 said they have never carried a credit card balance in their whole lives. Not once. Compare that to the country as a whole, where a huge share of active card accounts carry a balance from month to month at interest rates north of 20%. And this is not only a problem for people who are struggling. One survey found that 62% of people earning over $300,000 a year still wrestle with credit card debt. Think about what a revolving balance actually is. You are paying a premium for the privilege of spending money you do not have yet, and that premium is the exact opposite of building wealth. Every dollar of interest is a dollar that will never grow for you again. People with real money use credit cards constantly for the points and the convenience and the fraud protection. But the balance drops to zero the moment the statement arrives without fail. They treat the card as a tool that works for them. Most people, silently and expensively, let the card work against them. The math is almost cruel in how simple it is. Carry a $5,000 balance at 22% interest, and you can pay well over $1,000 a year just in interest. Money that buys you absolutely nothing and all but guarantees you stay a step behind no matter how hard you work. That same everyday discipline shows up socially too, in a way that tends to catch people off guard. Number 5, they are comfortable being the one who says no. This sign is easy to miss because it looks like nothing at all. It shows up as the friend who cheerfully skips the destination bachelor trip. You will notice the coworker who passes on the group lunch 3 days a week and brings food from home without a flicker of embarrassment. Sometimes it is the person who hears about the timeshare, the upgrade, the once-in-a-lifetime deal, and simply, calmly says it is not for them. In that Ramsey research, 94% of millionaires said they live on less than they make. 94%. That gap between what they earn and what they spend is not luck, and protecting it means saying no far more often than saying yes. The same study found these are people who use a grocery list, clip coupons, and spend $200 a month or less at restaurants, long after they no longer have to. Georgia, a software engineer I know, still drives the same modest car she bought used years ago and packs lunch out of a worn cooler bag that her flashier coworkers gently tease her about. She is also on track to retire more than a decade before any of them will. The people who spend to look the part are usually performing wealth for an audience. The people who actually have it feel zero need to prove a single thing to a table full of strangers. And once you stop spending to impress people, something much bigger opens up. Number 6, they buy back time, not stuff. Ask someone with real money what their money is actually for, and the answer is rarely a bigger house or a nicer watch. The answer is time. It is the freedom to walk away from a job they hate, to take a random Tuesday off, to sit at their kids' game in the middle of a workday without a knot in their stomach about the cost. The ultimate thing that wealth unlocks is not an object at all. It is options, and the ability to choose how you spend your one finite life. Past a certain point, money stops being about buying more and starts being about removing friction, the late fees, the overdraft warnings, the low hum of dread that follows anyone living one bad month away from real trouble. Buying that dread out of your life is worth more than almost anything you could put on a shelf. Salim built a small business over 15 years, and the moment his investments could reliably cover his family's core expenses, he did not run out and buy a boat. He cut his own work week down and started coaching his daughter's team. That is the flex nobody ever posts, because it cannot be posted. You cannot photograph freedom, but if you watch closely, you can spot it in how unhurried certain people are with their own days, how little they seem to be selling or proving. They have bought back their own time, and buying it back is the entire point of the game. It is the one luxury a bigger paycheck alone can never guarantee, because a bigger paycheck usually shows up with a bigger set of obligations bolted right onto it. If any of this is landing the way I hope it is, do me one small favor and subscribe and stick around, because the next 4 signs are the ones that do the heaviest lifting, and they are the exact ones almost nobody talks about at parties. Number 7. Their money has a job before it ever hits their checking account. Most people save whatever happens to be left at the end of the month, and the brutal truth is that there is almost never anything left. Wealthy people flip the entire order on its head. Their money is already spoken for before it ever lands. A slice goes straight into retirement accounts, another into investments, another into savings, all of it automated, all of it gone before it can be casually spent. They pay themselves first and then live on whatever remains. And here is the single fact that should change how you look at your own paycheck forever. Your savings rate matters far more than your salary. Run the comparison and watch what happens. A median earner who saves 20% of a $60,000 income, investing $12,000 a year at 7%, ends up with more than $1.1 million after 30 years. A high earner pulling $150,000 who only manages to invest $4,500 a year lands at around $425,000. The lower earner wins by a landslide, and the only variable that changed was behavior. This is precisely why the national data looks the way it does. The U.S. personal savings rate right now is only about 4.5%, and a recent survey found that even among people earning over $200,000 a year, most are not confident they are handling their money well. Real wealth gets built by people who automatically save multiples of that national average before they ever see the cash. The mechanism matters far more than the willpower. When the transfer fires off automatically on payday, you never get the chance to talk yourself out of it, and the account you never touch is the account that slowly grows into your freedom. And what they choose to do with those savings is the whole next sign. Number 8, they own things that pay them and avoid things that only cost them. If you strip this entire list down to one single idea, this is the one. Wealthy people spend their money buying assets. Almost everyone else spends their money buying liabilities. An asset puts money into your pocket over time. A liability pulls money right back out. That is the whole distinction, and nearly every other sign on this list flows straight out of it. The boat, the third television, the closet full of things that lose value the instant you own them, all of that is liabilities dressed up in the costume of success. An index fund, a rental property, an ownership stake in a business, a dividend-paying stock, those send money back toward you month after month, year after year. Marlon, a plumber who made a very ordinary living his whole career, spent 2 decades buying small, unglamorous rental units in his own town instead of steadily upgrading his lifestyle. Today, the rent checks alone outpace what he ever earned holding a wrench. From the street, he looks exactly like every neighbor on his block. On paper, he is nothing like them. This is also why ownership itself matters so much. Federal Reserve data shows homeowners carry an average net worth close to $1.5 million, while renters sit closer to $150,000, and a huge share of that gap comes down to one question, which is who owns the appreciating asset and who is only ever paying for the roof over their head. It is worth adding that most millionaires do this the boring, tax-smart way, maxing out tax-advantaged accounts like a 401k, which this year lets you shelter up to $24,500 a year before tax even touches it. When you train yourself to sort every purchase into asset or liability, you start to see the whole board the way they do. And the way wealthy people actually buy those assets is almost comically dull. Number 9, their investing is aggressively boring. There is a persistent fantasy that rich people got there by picking one perfect stock or timing some brilliant trade at the perfect moment. The real data says almost the exact opposite, and honestly, it is a little anticlimactic how simple the answer is. In the study of more than 10,000 millionaires, roughly 75% said the real reason they built their wealth was regular, consistent investing over a long stretch of time. Not a single one of them named single stock gambling as a major factor in their success. It did not even crack the top 3 reasons. Instead, they bought broad, low-cost index funds and added to them every month like clockwork. Then came the hardest task in all of finance, which is doing nothing at all. They left it alone. Through crashes and scares and endless headlines screaming that this time was truly different, they stayed invested and let the years compound. Consider the plain arithmetic one more time. $500 a month invested at 8% becomes about $745,000 over 30 years, and you personally only put in $180,000 of that total. Everything above that line is just time doing the work for you. Boring wins over and over again. The people chasing the thrilling play, the hot crypto, the meme stock, the sure thing a coworker swears by tend to be the ones with the loudest stories and the emptiest accounts. Wealthy investors made peace with slow a long time ago. They are not trying to get rich by Friday afternoon. They are trying to be quietly unshakable by the time they are 60, and the market has rewarded that kind of patience for well over a century. And that patient consistency ties directly into the final sign, the one that gives the whole thing away. Number 10, they can tell you their net worth, but they will never tell you their salary. Ask most people how they are doing financially, and they will answer you with their income. They make this much, they got this raise, this was the number on the offer letter. Ask someone with real money the very same question, and they think in a completely different currency. They think in net worth, which is simply everything they own minus everything they owe. They know that number, at least roughly, at almost any moment, because it is the only score that genuinely counts. Income is the water pouring into the tub. Net worth is how much is still in the tub after everything drains back out. For a little perspective, the median American household net worth sits around $192,000. And cracking the top 10% of the entire country takes roughly $1.9 million. Isabel, a retired teacher, could tell you her net worth to the nearest few $1,000s without hesitating, but she would find it strange and even a little rude to tell you her old salary, because in her mind, the salary was never the point. It was only ever the raw material she used to build something that lasts. The people who obsessively track what they keep are the people who end up keeping more and more. The people fixated on what they earn tend to watch it flow right back out the door year after year, wondering where it all went. So look again at that calm person at the table, the one we started with. Now you know exactly what you are looking at. Their peace is not a lucky personality trait. It is the slow, compounding result of money that works without them. A cushion that turns emergencies into errands, a boring car, a zero balance, an easy no, time they bought back, savings that move on autopilot, assets instead of liabilities, patience in the exact moments everyone else panics, and a clear focus on what they keep instead of what they earn. None of it is loud, none of it is built for an audience. That is the whole reason it works. Real money was never the number printed on the paycheck. It is the distance between what comes in and what actually stays, and the freedom that quiet gap buys back for you. Now I genuinely want to hear from you. Which of these 10 signs hit you the hardest, and which ones do you already do without even thinking about it? Maybe you have watched someone in your own life who looked rich but was secretly drowning, or someone who looked completely ordinary and turned out to be quietly, seriously wealthy. Tell me about them down in the comments, and tell me the one money habit that changed everything for you, because the person who scrolls past it might need that exact push today. And if this reframed the way you see wealth, the natural next step is the video where I walk through the money lessons school never taught any of us, the ones that would have saved most people a full decade of learning the hard way. That is where I would head next.